So we really have to give the bulls the benefit of the doubt.
So Bruno, 2 weeks ago, you expected the dollar index to rebound. So how have things turned out?
Well, let's look at this weekly chart of the US dollar index. And as we see, we were mentioning that we were 2 weeks ago at the bottom of the range which was between 94 and 100. And we've oversold stochastics, so there was some expectation that probably the market will, the US dollar index will rebound. And that's probably exactly what is happening right now. We have a nice weekly bullish engulfing pattern, which is signaling that probably the downside is over and that it starts to build up in that direction. So that's at least part of the scenario which is working well.
And can you talk us through what happened on the commodity side?
Well, on the commodity side, that's a little bit of an issue because instead of with a rising US dollar index, instead of pausing commodities, we had no pause and we are making new highs basically on oil, moving back above the 41 levels and testing for a second time the upper Bollinger Bands. It's possible that it might not go through it right now because the momentum is here slowing down. That means that there is a bearish divergence that suggests more of a trading range between 43 and 35. It's probably what we could expect for the coming weeks.
And you've mentioned a rise there, so are emerging markets also rising further?
Well, along the commodities, they did so. And if we take, for example, China, here we see that we have reached new highs and touching the moving average of 40 weeks, which is relatively important. And here we don't have too much of a bearish divergence and still momentum moving up. So it's possible that it extends toward the upper Bollinger Bands. Also, if we go and see what happened to Brazil, which was this outperformer, relative strength is also rising, like for China, against the S&P 500 and against the emerging market. So despite all the political news, this market, which was very oversold, is rebounding and continue its rebounds, and despite some of these divergences.
And that's really interesting. And Japan and Europe, they also rebounded.
Yes, everything seems to rebound. Let's start with the Nikkei. We were at 15,500. It was relatively neutral on the oscillators, and we said, well, maybe we should find some support a bit lower, but no, the support was found right away, and it rebounded toward the top of the trending range. So we are now around 16,800, not far from the 17,000 mark, 200, 300. This is still going on with stochastics crossing up, and also the relative strength. We were expecting that to rebound, but we were a bit surprised by the rebound, also nominally by the Nikkei.
And can you also talk us through what happened in Europe?
Almost the same thing. It looks like the rebounds and the relative strengths move up here, as expected. That allowed the rebound from the 28.60 level, kind of a support, long-term support trend line in green here. It moved all the way up back to the former resistance trend, support trend line, which was broken, and the former 31.28 resistance level. So we are now at the resistance level, but momentum can still rise, and until there is a reversal, it could go on for a little while.
And this is good news because all the equity markets are now rising.
Yes. What do we do with the S&P, right? S&P on a weekly basis, it's also made a new high. It broke the resistance trend line. It allows, along the momentum here on a weekly basis, is now rising on the positive side and has some strong movement. Here it's still flat, but that means that around 2100, we are close to these 2116 former resistances, and it's nothing is really telling us that it could not go on to the next one, which is 2134. There is no really reversal sign. So maybe we can look at a bit closer on a daily basis. And what we see here, we see no sign. Okay, what we had a small consolidation in the week just after our presentation, as we expected, but it failed to break the support around 2000, and then it make a new high. Usually when you have a kind of a rectangle here and a new high, that means that the movement which started at 1810 could be over, but you don't know if it will extend or not. What we just noticed is that the VIX index, which was already on April 4 at 13%, is again at 13%, so it's very low levels, it's very close to complacent level, but we have no sign of reversal. If we look at intraday, what happened yesterday, here we can notice that we had a small high at 2104 within a kind of a possible kind of a rising wedge. So it's coming out of the consolidation we mentioned just before, making new highs. And here it has not taken the 2104, but really until we are breaking the 2080, 2090 levels, if it doesn't happen, then the market could continue, extend a little bit further to 2130. So we really have to give the bulls the benefit of the doubt.
And are there some signs on the daily charts also?
Mm-hmm. You see, if we go on the daily charts, right, there is no strong resistance until this one at 2134, which is back in this chart above that. So 2104 is just right away. It's just a day. It can be touched today. But there is no momentum reversal right now on the daily charts, right? We have to leave it here.
Well, thank you so much for coming in today, and we look forward to your next visit. You're welcome, yes. That's all from myself and Bruno, but Bruno Estier will be back in 2 weeks' time. But for all the latest updates, keep clicking back to Dukascopy TV.